Quick Slants is presented by your local New England Honda dealers.
What is up, everybody? How you doing? Yeah, we're going to go deep because the draft is bearing down on us. The Patriots are picking 14th. That's not late. We have this show and two more before the draft, okay? So what do you say we dive in headlong to this here program? Here's your game plan for today. We got press coverage. We're going to get up on the wideouts and we're going to get close up and tell you all about them. Also, tight quarters. Going to tell you all about the tight ends. Got your back. Bill Belichick has many rallying to his defense, and we got a poll, and we got comments. But first, ladies and gentlemen, we have my slant. Watch out! And the question is, can Bill do it or can he not? Can he pick a wideout who works? Hope springs, Mother Scratch and Eternal. Now is not the time to talk to me about N'Keal Harry, Aaron Dobson, Chad Jackson, Josh Boyce, Taylor Price, Brandon Tate, Braxton Berrios, PK Sam, or Bethel Johnson. Some people think when you're in a hole, you stop digging. Not me. I think Bill's about to get hot. The path to the playoffs is already laid out in front of the Patriots. Bill O'Brien's going to take Mac Jones by the hand and walk him right down the path to it. The path back to elite is going to involve wideouts that can make a defense sweat, and they are out there. First up, Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. He had a visit with the Patriots. I loved it here so far. Y'all have treated me with great respect and shown me a great time. We'll see. Maybe I'm here in a few months. That's when he was over at Fenway. Now, look at this from Jim Nagy, talking about wideouts. When you talk about JSN, he's the only guy hanging out there that Nagy, the Senior Bowl chairman, says is going to be at the top of the draft. But there are other guys out there who might make you drool just a little bit. This is guy out of Boston College. It's Zay Flowers. Sudden! Yeah, he's sudden. And he's going to be sitting there at 14. And so many people love the fact that he is able to do it. Now, how about this guy named Tank Dell? We're going to get into it. What in God's name was that? Jim Nagy tweeted that. What? Wow! Okay. So I'm looking at Tank Dell, I'm looking at Zay Flowers, I'm looking at JSN, and I'm not worrying about the past record for Bill Belichick. And when I do, I prefer to think of Deion Branch or the seventh-round gems like David Givens and Julian Edelman. And I pretend that those other guys never happened. And Phil Perry joins me right now to make me feel great about the wideouts. Phil, how are you?
I'm doing great, but I'm not sure I'm going to make you feel great about the wideouts in this year's draft class. It's a deep class of receivers, Tom, but it's not an excellent class in terms of the very top of the draft. So number 14 overall, I'm not sure you're going to feel as though there's a receiver right there worthy of that spot. Maybe a trade down, maybe a trade all the way back into the second round, or you wait till day 3. There are some options here, no doubt, but at 14 overall, I'm not sure that's the spot for them.
Okay. Would that be because there are such good players on the board for them who could fit them better? And I keep thinking about these quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, not to mention Bryce Young and the other dudes escaped me. Thank you, C.J. Stroud, who are going to drive down so much talent. And the Patriots have needs. Phil, do you look at this and say, you can wait on wideout because it's going to be a better player to help you?
Yeah, maybe a player like at offensive tackle or a cornerback, right? These are premium positions, though, Tom. These guys are hard to find. Premium positions, hard to find athletes. That's, generally speaking, the best investment to make in the first round. Again, I like a lot of the receivers in this year's draft class. A lot of them are essentially, including our guy Zay Flowers, who we both love, Tank Dell included, slot receivers. And generally speaking, the league waits on those guys till day 2.
If the league does not wait on them, and the New England Patriots do make a move there, we've seen them late in the first round go with N'Keal Harry. We've seen them draft Chad Jackson early in the second. We've seen them take Bethel Johnson in the second. I could go on. I don't have to. Would Zay Flowers represent one of the safest picks you could make at wideout?
At his size, it'd be hard to characterize him as safe, right? He's about 5'8", about 180-ish pounds. I love him. I think he's all kinds of sudden. I think he would work wonders in the Bill O'Brien offense in the slot as that sudden uncoverer in the middle of the field for Mac Jones. I just feel as though 14 might be a little bit rich.
Right.
Here's a great option for you, though, Tom. Why don't you trade down from 14, get to somewhere in the 20s, add a pick on day 2, then maybe end up with Zay Flowers and maybe sort of a second-tier corner as opposed to taking one of the top overall guys at that position at 14.
Okay, trade back to 20-ish and then take the wide out?
Potentially.
Okay,
That would feel like a safer bet if you're going with the Zay Flowers.
We're going to delve into that, and we're going to delve into more offensive geometry at the back end of this particular block. But first, it's from the stands. I put out a poll today, folks. And here's the question. There were 9,000 responses. Bill Belichick's draft history at wide receiver has been underwhelming. As a result, you'd like to see the Patriots proudly select another, your leading vote getter. Quit while they're behind, 17%. 14% want to poll fan base for advice on this. And then there's take a hybrid wide receiver tight end fella. Paul jumps in. He says, just take the top wide receiver tight end. Belichick's mistake is passing on top guys because he thinks the 6th or 7th best wide receiver is almost as good as the top guy. Julio Jones versus Jonathan Baldwin, back from 2000, whenever that was, Phil. Don't value draft there. Just grab the top guy. Next one in. Harry Mann. Too many important needs for the Patriots to take a receiver at 14. As Phil mentioned, left tackle corner likely will be available. Plenty of good wideouts. He's talking Phil's language. D-Lou. Fan base really couldn't do worse than Bill has done. I know the fan base wouldn't have taken N'Keal Harry. What does that mean? Let's go with Jay Qatar. Have the FBI accidentally break into the hotel room of the guy from Pittsburgh who evaluates wideouts to interrogate him. And do we have another one? We do. Oh, yes, we do. Look at this. I didn't want to single this guy out because he's a good dude and I've interacted with him in the past. He says it really hasn't been that bad. Digest. That doesn't look that freaking good either. That doesn't look that freaking good. Okay, what do we got now? Phil, thoughts on those types? I mean, it has been, quote unquote, that bad. I mean, you can't say Braxton Berrios was worked out.
No, you can't. And even Malcolm Mitchell, as good as he was as a rookie, he came into the league. Everybody knew he had knee issues. He ended up having knee issues. He had a very brief career, unfortunately, for him and for the Patriots. So I think it might be time, Tom, to start valuing this position the way you might value a tackle spot or a defensive end or a defensive tackle. Bill Belichick, generally speaking, has gone big in the first round. I think receivers can have such a big impact on the game today in 2023. They're worthy of more consideration earlier in the draft.
Excellent segue in terms of talking about big. Because let's talk now about tight end. And there is a glut of talent at that position if you want to go big with hybrid types. Give me a second on this full screen because Dalton Kincaid is the top of the food chain. He's seen as a top 15 pick. Michael Mayer, certainly seen as a first rounder. Sam Laporta, he's your fastest and best athlete. Phil likes Darnell Washington, who is just an absolute behemoth. Luke Musgrave, he has that kind of Gronk background because he was injured last year at Oregon State, barely played, but he was extremely productive. And Luke Schoonmaker, he was at the Shrine Bowl. He's a biggin, and he's the kind of guy who can really block and be productive too. He's like a better Matt LaCosse. Phil?
I'm sure the Schoonmaker family is happy to hear that. No offense to Matt LaCosse. But I like a lot of these options, Tom, and it's sort of a pick your flavor situation here too. Do you want the traditional inline wide tight end? That would be Darnell Washington to me with all that size. He looks like a tackle on the field at times, but he had almost a 4-flat short shuttle, which indicates he can change direction and could be a factor as a receiver, too. Luke Musgrave is really fascinating to me. If he played last season, Tom, he would have put up big numbers. He might have been a first-round pick. He was one of the fastest players at the Senior Bowl across positions. That's all your receivers, all your corners included. This guy weighed 255 and clocked over 20 miles an hour on the field down in Mobile. That is elite athleticism. I'd be looking at him on day 2 early.
And the reason we're bringing this up, and we'll get into this just a little bit later on, is there are so many expiring contracts for the Patriots. 2 of the expiring contracts at the end of 2023 belong to tight ends Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki. And we've seen the Patriots time after time since Bill Belichick arrived double up at the tight end position. Graham and Watson, Gronkowski Hernandez, Asiasi Keene, Smith and Hunter Henry, and now they brought in Gesicki. They want to have complementary guys. Phil, could they go too deep this year?
They could potentially. It just depends on how you want to spread those things out, right? Like, I love Sam Laporta as a move tight end, as somebody you might put in the backfield every once in a while. You're not going to ask him to block in line. Can you take him in the third round after taking Musgrave in the second? Because then you have your Y and your F, and you're covered that way. That would be a great group, but now all of a sudden you're out a second and a third round pick. The later you wait, the harder it is, obviously, to find a real contributor.
All right, good stuff. See, if you're not up to date now on pass catchers, we can't help you. Brought to you by Dr. Matthew Lepresti. Look younger, feel younger, get your hair back with Leonard Hair Transplant Associates. Take a look at my mop. It's impressive. Take a look at these stats. Not bad. Not bad. You know, 2 years into the league, you can't be ashamed of it. So there's your Mac Jones. And, of course, we had to talk about Mac Jones in this program. And I want to talk for a second about refutation and debunking, because a lot of effort has been expended trying to refute the report of last Tuesday in which Mike Florio reported that Mac Jones had been shopped. Now, we got into semantics gymnastics regarding that report, in which many people were able to say, well, geez, I didn't hear about that. I don't know if he was shopped. Look, the Patriots don't have to walk down Main Street and say, want to buy a Mac? In order to be shopping. Listen to Mike Lombardi for just a moment, and I'll pick it up on the other side with Phil, and we'll get into this a little bit more.
Did the Texans call Bill and say, are you going to move Mac? And he said, what are you offering? Because every player is available, right? But not every player is being shopped. So the idea that he's shopping Mac that's against everything he would do. First of all, he's the most secretive person in the league. He's not going to tell you anything he's doing. Even some people in the organization don't know. But if somebody comes to him and says, I'll give you a 1 for Mac, okay. Does that mean he's shopping him? No. That just means somebody asked the question.
First things first, nobody is walking up to Bill Belichick at this juncture and saying, I'll give you a 1 for Mac. His value has been significantly diminished over the past however many months. But I'll say this, if the Patriots and Bill Belichick answer the phone on a call and someone says, what do you want for Mac? And the Patriots don't say, that's a negotiation to an extent. What are you offering? That might not be shopping the way people define, but that's open for business on a player. And what player are they not open for business on? They're more, forest for the trees, right, Phil?
Yeah, I agree with you. And to that point, Tom, not every player is available all the time, especially at that position. Just in the last handful of years, we have gotten examples of Bill Belichick essentially hanging up on people when they've asked about his quarterbacks. Jimmy Garoppolo reportedly wasn't going to be moved for 4 first-round picks at one point in time, according to Adam Schefter. Obviously, he ended up getting moved, but at one point in time, he was not movable, according to Bill Belichick and according to Adam Schefter's report there. Tom Brady, the Niners called about Garoppolo, and they said, okay, you're not willing to deal him. What about Tom? And got laughed off the phone, according to John Lynch. So we know Mac Jones obviously isn't Tom Brady, but the fact that there might be conversations being had as far as this goes, Tom, would indicate Bill Belichick not necessarily 100% in on his current starting quarterback.
Yeah, and remind you, it's a second-year quarterback on a rookie contract making $2 million who a year ago backed into the Pro Bowl, but he was dancing with the best players in the league doing the gritty after he got invited there because he had a really good first season. And now they're not hanging up on people who might be calling, and that's being diminished as, well, he's not really talking about. Look, if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, not smells, it's a duck. Mac's got a big year ahead of him. And how is he going to go into this year? Well, Eric Mangini, former Patriots executive, Jets head coach, Patriots coach, had this to say about how Mac should approach the Patriots coaching staff.
Look, I'm a guy who understands grudges by Bill Belichick, but in this situation, I'm definitely siding more with him. And I've always had an issue with the way that Mac Jones has treated where he was lucky enough to get drafted. I thought it was a perfect situation for him. I thought having Josh McDaniels and that offensive staff that he had and the system that they had was incredibly fortunate for him and a really good fit. and it never felt like he appreciated it. We also hear one small part of the story. Who knows what else has gone on in the building, and who knows, how deep the level of undercutting the guys that were there took place. Maybe Mac Jones was fighting the decision from the beginning, which made it a lot more difficult for the decision to be successful.
I wonder if a little birdie was involved. Phil, your thoughts?
Yeah, talk about undercutting, some very public undercutting right there by Eric Mangini, because he's saying for some reason Mac Jones always didn't appreciate the situation that he ended up here in New England. What does that mean? Because any issues that have arisen with this Mac Jones situation at quarterback for the Patriots, Tom, I thought were limited to 2022, right, in the coaching situation. And if Mac Jones wasn't all that confident in it to begin with, as Mangini alludes, that would make him like, the rest of the NFL, who felt the exact same way before the season, well before the season even started, when they looked at this situation from afar. So I'm just curious. I'm curious where that undercutting is coming from, because it feels like Mangini's hinting at things that happened last year when Mac Jones was a rookie under Josh McDaniels, and it just feels like we are past the point of unfair to Mac Jones going into his third year here.
Mac sucked it up for a long time. I mean, you remember him saying during training camp, I figured it out before, I'll figure it out again. And by December, he had enough. But to me, there is certainly an ongoing effort for folks who felt mistreated to get their message out that Mac is not without culpability for the way he acted. And that has to be absolutely run through with a spear if they're going to succeed in 2023. All right, let's take a look at some of these free agents for 2024 the Patriots have coming up. Because why does this matter? Because these are the positions the Patriots might have to scrutinize going into this draft. Looking at three in particular here: Duggar, Onwenu, Uche. Those are key players, Phil, for the Patriots. Atlanta set the market in this offseason when they re-signed Chris Lindstrom to a $20 million per year deal at the right guard position. That could be a problem for the Patriots if they want to redo Onwenu. Who would you prioritize among those three?
I prioritize Uche for a couple different reasons. Number one, the difficulty of finding capable pass rushers at that position, right? That is a difficult spot to fill. The athletes there tend to be very, very rare. And the reason I prioritize it, Tom, I prioritize it in terms of the timeline too. I try to extend him right now. Because if you could get him now before he goes into next season and maybe has another double-digit sack year, now maybe you're getting him at a discount for the foreseeable future at a critical spot.
Also, Uche, he could probably be in the $10 to $15 million range. The top-level guys make about $20 million a year. He's not that. He's not elite. Even if he has another great season, you'd want more intel. As for Duggar, I would think that he might be my primary guy to re-up with. Jesse Bates, who went from Cincinnati to Atlanta. He went for $4 and $64. The Patriots have a crap ton of cap space, as Phil pointed out earlier today on our podcast. And the reason for that is they don't have a lot of young players coming back in 2024. So start making sure your core is intact. Re-up those guys. Coming up, we got OBJ and Quickfire. We got our guy Buckets is going to join us. We'll go around the NFL just a little bit. This has been a tremendous program so far, folks. Send this one in. Odell Beckham Jr., formerly of the Rams and the New York Giants and also the Cleveland Browns. He has signed a deal with the Baltimore Ravens. 1 year, $15 million, could be upwards of $18 million. Time now for Quickfire. It's presented by your local New England Honda dealers. Here comes Rob Snyder. Hey, Buckets.
Hey, how are you? This one is not creative. It just says OBJ signs. So, Phil, should the Patriots have been in on this? Does this do anything for Lamar? What's your reaction to the OBJ signing?
I am stunned by the amount of money this guy got. I mean, talking about $15 million, I understand it's just for 1 year, but that is a pretty penny for a guy who now has 2 ACLs that he's dealt with in his recent past here, Tom. I understand he looked pretty explosive and the hand-eye is still next level and he had a nice workout earlier this offseason for scouts, but that's a lot of dough for a guy who's probably a number 2, maybe a number 3 at this point in his career.
You know, I wonder if this Buckets is a lure for Lamar Jackson, because they're not paying him the $45 million a year guaranteed. They will ultimately, if Lamar just signs the franchise tag, be paying him $32 million, so you got some extra money involved. Let's bring OBJ in and have a good season, huh, boys? Huh? And then we'll re-up again next year.
It does kind of feel like that. I agree. Next up, the Packers GM says we're working on the Aaron Rodgers trade. That's the update. So we're kind of stuck in limbo. Curran, I'll start with you. Does it feel like the Packers are holding the Jets hostage, or are the Jets maybe waiting till after the draft so they can use their pick?
It feels like, to me, this is something that I've operated on many times when I'm supposed to be doing something that I haven't done. I'm on it. I'm working on it. It'll be done soon. And ultimately, I think this will be a draft weekend or right prior to the draft kind of a move. To me, I mean, the Jets feel all but assured that this is going through. No sweat. Don't worry about it.
I just look at the Packers right now. There is no chance they are keeping him around and paying him $60 million just to, not play? There's no chance they're not moving him. So if I'm the Jets, I'm waiting until the Packers accept some sort of trade package that does not include my number 13 overall pick. If I'm Woody Johnson, I want that 13 overall to draft a left tackle, and I want Aaron Rodgers. So the Packers are going to have to kind of get what they get and don't get upset, as we say at our house with the draft.
Hit me, buckets.
All right, last one. We got who's number one, Phil. I'll start with you. The Panthers traded up for the 1 pick. Everyone's reporting that they don't know who they're going to take, which I just can't believe they traded up to 1 and didn't know. Who's it going to be, C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young?
I think it's going to be Bryce Young because I think he's the best quarterback of the group. But, Tom, the interesting equation for me would be looking at Bryce Young and maybe a little bit more of a sure thing than some of the other quarterbacks, even though he's small, understand that, versus somebody like Anthony Richardson. Mm-hmm. Because if he hits, Tom, this is sort of like a Baker Mayfield versus Josh Allen situation. Josh Allen went 7 back in 2018. Baker Mayfield went 1. He was the better guy at the time. Josh Allen, though, look at him now.
No. Or it could be a Zach Wilson versus Trey Lance type situation, and neither one can play. That's what's terrifying. It's interesting, too. You say you can't believe they don't have in mind. The Niners didn't know who they were taking at 3, and they only had 2 options, Lance or Jones, and they still ended up with, what's the guy's name, Purdy?